So, it's Joey Freeze.
Yes.
Hello.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
We're rolling.
Are we? Okay.
Yeah. And I'm filming some of the stuff over here. Did you really say that this sculpture is you?
It is. You can tell by the nose.
Too funny.
Yeah. In Cajamarca, they had some locals did sculpting. And
Come closer. Come right closer to the mic. We'll see if we can figure.
Where's the...
That's the reading on the bottom there. I don't let you know.
Yeah, no, my partner, co-founder and I, Freddie Wonky, were just doing some touring and, after work one day and in the markets and found these people that made these great sculptures. So
Wow.
gave them photographs of ourselves and, of course, they met us. And so he has one, I have one, my backpacks, you can see my backpack on the back.
Didn't see the backpack.
And this is the little tassel from my wool coat. It's a Peruvian wool coat.
That's right,
Can't
yeah.
tell that, but they got the pockets. They got the creases in my pants. They got my boots.
Beautiful rock too.
Yeah.
Bunch of white marble. Is it pink marble too?
Yeah, it's the yellow is jarosite, so it's nicely oxidized rock. Must be some kind of a marble or a.
And you with the hammer there.
And my hat that's well used. Yeah, I know. It's life, right?
And that's you in the picture too, the painting, I guess, isn't it? Wonderful. And this
this is a sample from the P Arena.
Well, I'm looking at the bought deal record here for $27 million.
Yeah, well, that's our favorite. Yeah. Obviously, that's the one you remember the most. You'd like to think about too. This is kind of a mixture of Peru and Mexico stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Wonderful.
Memories.
Great. Well, forward.
Exactly.
And I love Dan's report. There was some care in it.
Yeah.
It's not as the language is a bit different from your typical corporate analyst thing. There was a little bit more him in it, and it was easier to read.
Yes.
It felt like somebody speaking a little bit more than some of the corporate speak that comes out in some of these things. And he hit everything too. He the checklist.
No, I agree.
I read it from the back to the front, and the management list, the directors and stuff you guys have. Wow.
Yeah, no, but
I was impressed.
our assets are solid.
Yeah.
And you know that by the people on the board.
That's
right. I mean, they're not going to join. It's
Yeah.
You look at our market cap and you're like, what are these guys doing? But having said that, they're there because of the asset. Is what it is.
And they're still there.
Yeah.
They're not kind of legacy appointments that are on their way out from
No.
the company in some way.
No.
They're how actively involved are they?
We have a serious board. They vet every news release. They don't micromanage me.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, money's tight right now. I show them all the bills, and they help me decide which ones we can pay and which ones we should delay. And because we're in it together.
Yeah.
And we have our proper committees. Paul Berry's our chair
Yep.
of the board. And I mean, he's a Harvard MBA, and he just raised several billion for Hydro One.
Crazy.
So, they know they're very concerned about corporate governance and due diligence and, all those things. So,
Well, and I like what I see in that regard with you at the helm and the history of it as a private company first. 13 years almost kind of thing, 97 to 2010, I think it was, like as private.
No, it was a spin out.
Yeah.
So it was Candente Resource Corp was private from 97 to 2000.
Yes.
Then Candente Resource Corp went public. And then we initially were looking to find, we were in Peru initially, and looking to find another P Arena.
Yeah.
Another grassroots exploration, discovery, high sulfidation. But along the way, so we had a lot of great prospects, and the photograph in there with the horses is, 4,500 meters, Pamel project, one of our first.
Wow.
Actually, Freddie Wonky, the way we started things, he could pick on a satellite photograph certain band waves. He could pick alunite. off of a satellite photograph. So we just get on the horse and go find the alunite.
Yeah.
And then often your gold high sulfidation deposits come with alunite. So that's how we discovered Pamel, which didn't turn out, but it was a great prospect.
Yeah.
It had gold, but just not a deposit.
Yeah.
In any case, eventually the copper project, Candente, came available from the government, and Freddie phoned me one day and said, "Are we interested in copper?" And he said, "It looks, it's got enough drill holes in it that they're kind of arm-waving a resource, but it is at least something solid." And I said, "Well, copper's a great metal. I do like copper. Long term, it's
have to.
For me, copper is life. Gold is money, copper is life." So I said, "What's the minimum in the auction?" He said, $75,000. I said, "Yeah, well, I think that's about how much we have in the bank right now."
Oh, wow.
So,
Oh, my God.
And I was actually on a road show within the week to Europe with somebody who was helping me raise money for gold, and very much a gold bug. And we won the auction. We were the only bidder, as it turned out. Other people participated, but we won the auction, $75,000. We had a month to pay it.
Yeah.
We got an extension for another month or two. But in the meantime, the person that took me to Europe to meet people to raise money for gold kind of left me there.
Yeah.
And I had some extra days. I shouldn't say he left me there, but yeah, I ended
Extra days are good.
And I just did cold calls.
Absolutely.
So, friends from Vancouver gave me their list.
Get to work.
Met some guys that offered to help me buy the copper project.
Wow.
And so when the gold bug got actually quite angry with me that I was,
Oh, God.
calling people behind his back,
Yeah,
he said,
of course.
but also going, potentially spending money on copper. He was livid. I said, "Look, I'll tell you what. This is what makes sense to me. Every penny you raise for me, I'll spend on gold.
Yep.
Every penny somebody else gives me and they want me to spend on copper, I'll spend it on copper." Anyway,
Yep.
So we went from 2000 and really copper didn't move much till 2004. When it did, we started drilling at Candente, and we do one program and then another. Wait, get your results, such. But basically, we were finding copper every day. Every day we drilled.
Yeah.
So that kind of started taking the life of the company, and the gold started getting ignored.
Yeah.
So then in 2006, I heard about an opportunity. Well, actually, we thought, we should be looking outside Peru.
Yeah.
Started looking at Mexico, and then because we were looking at Mexico, somebody heard that and said, "Hey, the Wheaton River Group, which became Goldcorp, is looking to option out all the exploration projects that came as part of the Luisman portfolio because they bought Luisman for the Tayoltita mine, and Ian Telfer didn't like exploration. So what they did is they handpicked juniors that they thought were good explorers, put in a bidding, basically put us in a contest, and we won the exploration contest. But the idea was they had a strong back-in rate. So let us go out and find some ounces.
Yep.
Then they would come back in.
Yep. They like those deals. Goldcorp likes those deals with juniors.
The deal was a deal. We couldn't negotiate it.
Yep.
If we wanted, we just competed with the other
Well, they
juniors.
have all the cards, right? Yeah, and they still seem to do things like that in some places.
That's their modus operandi.
They can, right?
So basically, we spent 1.7 million. We found mineralization at depth below the old workings, showing in 4 different of the vein systems that gold and silver was continuing at depth, which means you weren't the system didn't stop where they stopped mining.
Yep.
But it wasn't enough to get the market really that interested. But it was enough to get some renegotiation going with Goldcorp. And I don't remember all the timelines of all the renegotiations, but eventually what we did is we got the back and right not only over the historic area. No, sorry, not in the historic area.
But the area of interest.
But the area around it.
Yep.
So then we spent our 1.7 in that area.
Yep.
Another 1.5,
Okay.
We didn't find anything.
Oh, God.
So then they didn't back in.
Yes.
So then we got to town working on the areas we really liked.
And their back-in option expired.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
So they had to choose, and they didn't back in. So then they had no right to back in anymore.
Cool.
Then we got 50% locked in when we spent $5 million,
Yep.
and I think that was around 2011.
Yep.
Then we spent another 5 by May of 2012, locked in 70% interest. Then they kind of surprised us with the comment, we're going to continue with you. We're going to contribute our 30%.
Okay.
So we put together a budget. They took till the very last hour, the last day, to say, "Oh no, we're not participating. You're on your own." So now you're in
Yikes.
this. You're having to earn them out, and the way the formula was, we would have ended up having to spend $40 million to get them down to an NSR.
Wow.
You know, which
In
is,
addition to the two.
no, I think that would be included in the
Okay,
10,
but
but
that's
another
still
30
It's a lot.
to get. So it was like, what do you do? So we spent a year looking at the tailings opportunity,
Right.
and warming up the municipality because they owned it. So all the
Okay.
mayor, or they call him the president of the community there,
Yep.
president of the municipality, and the whole cabildo. There's like a board of directors there. There's 12 people or something.
Wow.
So kept explaining to them, you know, and I spent a lot of time just sitting in the town waiting for them, and you know, lots of meetings.
Yes.
And after a year, we got a deal on the tailings, and then we started testing it. And really, the recoveries was very difficult.
Oh, of course.
Much more than we thought.
They're
so
always
we'd hoped, I should say.
curveballs, right?
Yeah. So then Sun River Gold came along, and they wanted to figure out the metallurgy to earn in. So we said, great. Did a first deal with them where they could earn 51% interest, but they had to prove it was economic, and that became a sticking point because they felt they had, but we said they hadn't legally because it wasn't 43-101.
Yeah.
It wasn't. I couldn't go out and raise
PFS.
money.
You
Yeah,
hadn't
it wasn't
stipulated.
anything that we had.
Okay.
We had enough words in there.
There
that
was disagreement.
So we worked that out, and now we have a deal with them where they can earn 100% interest, but they give us payments every 3 months. We get $30,000 US, and there are some big payments.
Yeah.
Like it's 500,000
Yeah.
over a couple of years.
Yeah.
And then once they also have to put in production
Yeah.
by within 2.5 years.
And that's for the tailings.
Yeah, and then we get a 5% NPI.
Yeah.
So hopefully we're already getting a little cash flow, but hopefully we'll get serious cash flow from
Yeah.
that.
Why
And
is that top line, or the non-participating interest is that just an NSR? Or
It's a net profit
But
interest.
yeah, without the smelter, I think some.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Wow. Well, that's
and then now
we
we can concentrate on the hard rock again.
Yeah. When did those payments from the guys on the tailings start to kick in?
They started paying us when we did the initial deal, which is 2 years ago now.
Wow. Okay.
And then they stopped while we kind of renegotiated, but then they started again in November when we locked in the new 100% deal. So,
Right.
Yeah.
And that's just for that. So you're keeping El Oro and everything else
Separate.
Good.
Yeah, we have it in separate companies.
Great,
So
yeah.
everything to do with the tailings
Good.
is
Yeah.
in a BVI tailings company, which is owned by Candente Gold.
Yeah.
But we can sell that company separately and has nothing to do with the hard rock.
Wonderful. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
The ancient history, bring us up to speed here. Is that 10 years that you just went through? It's more than 10 years, isn't it?
Crazy. This business, how time flies.
Well, and how fast we all keep going still.
Yeah.
There's no time to slow down either. That's
No.
the other thing.
No.
Bear market be damned. You got to
Yeah.
keep going.
Exactly. No, when you find good assets,
Yeah.
you know, I've drilled a lot of holes and I've gotten really excited about a lot of things that didn't pan out. That's
Yeah.
exploration, right? So when you do find things that, you know, you
Yeah.
can really sink your teeth into and believe in,
Yeah.
then you have to stick with them.
And El Oro is one of those.
It is, yeah.
The historical production numbers there are kind of
Unbelievable.
yeah
Amazing,
it's-
yeah.
and gold too.
Yeah.
That is just a surprise again.
Yeah.
And then you look at the regional map, and it's so many stars. It's
Yeah.
just a prolific.
No, what I love is just, you know, the fact that two veins so close together,
Yeah.
hidden by up to 300 meters of younger volcanics. So
Yep.
really everything had to be found underground other than one little window. So that's 8 million ounce gold equivalent. And one vein was 4 million ounces gold and 44 million ounces silver.
Yeah.
San Rafael. So that's why my most exciting place to get back to, and where I really, really want to get back to first, is the San Rafael, because I think that'll prove the model,
Yeah.
prove that we have something like Juanicipio, like all the other low sulfidation systems in Mexico where they found stacked boiling systems. So, you know, ore bodies upon ore bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can get to these 31 new targets,
Yeah.
which it's in the same camp, same kind of system,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. What's kilometers here? This is this. It looks like 500-meter blocks too, so we're not talking about significant
No,
distances.
no, exactly. It's, I don't know, I always forget exactly how many kilometers it is, but it's 13,000, it's over 13,000 hectares,
Yeah,
so.
yeah. No, it's close enough.
Yeah.
So, the geology of these, you said low sulfidation.
Yeah.
And these kind of vein systems, was what kind of prep was going on here? Was there to let this stuff come up? Was it?
Well, the low sulfidation epithermal system, so the main veins are northwesterly.
Mm-hmm.
So the fluids with the gold and silver, pregnant fluids we call it, follow the northwesterly structure.
Mm-hmm.
But somewhere along the way, there's a northeasterly structure cross-cutting that actually controls the high grade.
Sure.
So that suggests you have one pulse of mineralization that's following northwesterly.
Yeah.
But then for some reason, because fluids love to be trapped in complicated structural settings.
Yeah.
Then you would have had a second event that then is related to the northeasterly. And we've got some proof of that. I mean, that's what we've seen in Aster image, so structural interpretation of the camp.
Yeah.
But once that was identified by Nadia Kyra, then I started looking back through the literature.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually found where the old timers talk about right around the Esperanza, Mexico border of the San Rafael vein. So there were three mines in that vein.
Yeah.
Southern was called El Oro, middle one was Esperanza, northern one Mexico, which was the highest grade. Right near the Mexico-Esperanza border, where we drilled several holes because we felt there was a pocket of ore that should be left, because in the Mexico mine they mine deeper than in the Esperanza, so
Perfect.
Geologically no reason that shouldn't be as deep.
It's a great drill target. So
we drilled 3 holes there, and I don't know if Dan's got a section here. If not, I'll grab one. Oh, he's got it in there. Let me go to mine. So when we drilled these holes, I knew to me that something vertical was going on. Something cross-cutting, something vertical. That's all I could say. Because there's no explanation otherwise.
Said like a true explorationist, Joey.
Okay, you've got 2 holes here that didn't get to the main target. That's San Rafael where it got mined out.
Yeah.
So we're targeting below.
Yeah.
Didn't get there because we lost the hole.
Oh, okay.
So when you've had to come through up to 300 meters of younger volcanics, and then this unconformity that is very blocky and a lot of clay, it's hard to get through, and it's hard to keep your drill pointed, targeted where you want it. In any case, lost 2 holes here. But above that, in these 2 other parallel veins, we got really good grades. And we got disseminated mineralization in the volcanics above.
Nice.
Up to 75 meters of 1 gram.
There you go.
Well, nowhere else in the camp. I mean, after that, we drilled a lot of holes trying to chase this disseminated target in the Samaritan. You don't get it in other places.
Okay.
You get some gold, but never have we
Nice.
found to that high grade.
Yeah.
Then we finally got a hole down there below, and it does get good grade, well below old workings. So again, the system's alive and well. But what's going on here? Because you've got a vein going this way, a vein there, right?
Yeah.
Those are the northeasterly.
Yeah.
Why are you getting higher grades than usual, or such high grades, in several structures, different structures, one above the other?
Yeah.
Well, that's something top down, right?
Totally.
Happening. So we knew this before the structural interpretation. I just didn't understand what it would all mean or could all mean. But now that Nadia identified these northeasterly, that's what makes sense to me. Is these structures are getting cross-cut.
Yep.
So then you add to that I go back through the old literature, and sure enough, the old timers talk about the San Rafael vein in either the Mexico Esperanza, but it's right near the border. There's a northwesterly vein and a northeasterly vein. Okay, great. Let's go for it.
Well.
So that's where I want to drill. And then, my first place to go back to. And then adding to this picture is this more theoretical model. And that's where we saw the budding tonight. So the buddingtonite that's mentioned here is actually right in here. Okay, so it's in the disseminated disseminated mineralization in the Samara-Tooth. Well, buddingtonite is a clay mineral that happens at the top of a system in what's called the sinter cap. So in this model, if you're finding buddingtonite here, your gold ore body is going to be down here, several hundred meters below. But this buddingtonite is right next door to what got mined out in San Rafael. So that is that is not the buddingtonite you'd expect to have come with this.
Okay.
It's not the sinter cap for this system.
Right.
The sinter cap for this system is way up there. But it's been eroded off.
Okay.
It's gone now.
Sure.
So this indicates something deeper.
Yeah.
And so that again says something deeper on the same, right? So these and this are really the same. We should almost maybe put them on the same panel.
Oh, totally.
So you can point.
Well, for people who can understand that too, that's a pretty...
Because usually, the thing is I create a PowerPoint for me to explain it, not for other people to buy themselves, look through it and go, well, that makes sense, right? So I have to think about that.
That's fine. Exploration is not for everybody. Investing in these exploration companies is really... It requires a very high degree of commitment to understanding the story, doing your homework if you really want to ride the ups and downs and know when the company's had the success that or the failure rather to kill something, or all this. It's so. And I wonder, just, are you at the point where you understand really sequences of events there and the faulting and all this stuff?
First of all, the sequence of events is that if you have a northeasterly structure like this and the fluids come up and they rise up and then they precipitate gold and silver over on an average of 200 meters normally in the system. Then what happened is later another system came. So that those fluids would have receded, and who knows when later came up again, and then maybe came up again. But so that's why you call it stacked boiling system. So you could have precipitating up here, then down here, then down here. And when Juanicipio was discovered by Mag Silver, with in the Fresnillo camp, they were in another vein right beside, but they weren't. Probably, I don't know all the story, so don't take all my facts here. But what I understand is that they've discovered a new vein there, but of course the top of that vein didn't have mineralization that the vein next door had. But it had it much deeper, which again they knew because they found the buddingtonite. Once they found the buddingtonite, they knew
what's this
got to
doing
drill
here?
a lot deeper.
Straight,
So the ore body in Juanicipio is much deeper than the ore body in the vein next door. But you've got to understand these systems.
Well, and why precipitation at such
different levels?
Yeah, you're talking about 500 meter maybe vertical difference.
It's just
there a shift in the whole tectonic stuff we're talking here, or
it's just another system, and a later event would do different things because it's temperatures and pressures that cause it to precipitate.
Right.
So just the time.
Yeah,
and
this
going on at the time.
And the younger volcanics on the top. This is a pretty active area for volcanic activity, and okay. Yeah, southern Mexico. Would you call it southern Mexico?
I don't know. It's kind of a district all to itself, so it's not. It's central Mexico.
Yeah.
Because it's northwest of Mexico City.
Yeah. Always humbling when I start to look at the map of Mexico and all the mining going on there. Wow.
Yeah.
And what's going on with the oil and everything now with that big changes there and the privatization things, and there's precedent for that in the mining industry. Right. So when in your career did you first start to go down to Mexico? You mentioned Peru.
Yeah, I went to Peru. I went to Chile in 89, 90, and really liked South America and realized that very similar geological settings to what we're used to in BC. So,
wow.
You take the rocks can be the same anywhere.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I'd done various mining tours in Spain and Portugal and other parts of the world. So you start recognizing that, there's as long as you understand your geology,
Geology,
you know,
yeah.
it's a question of where you want to work. So really liked South America, and then back to Vancouver, and then I was actually working as a QP in the diamond exploration,
Sure.
and I had very young children.
Yeah.
And my husband at the time had an opportunity to go to. He was working in Peru,
Yeah.
but had an opportunity to. Well, they wanted him to be living there.
Mm-hmm.
Exploration, be their exploration manager, and it was new times in Peru because the Fujimori government had just got the terrorists under control, and
Yep.
we're just bringing back international investment. And so we moved there with our kids
Wow.
in '94, July of '94, and just stayed there for 3 years. And but we didn't know how long we were going to stay.
Yeah.
The first company we went for ran out of money.
Yeah, of course.
And but so many people, Canadians were coming there that I actually, as a consultant,
Yeah.
QP, just had a ton of work.
Sure.
So.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, and then eventually started looking at what was going on in Mexico and thought that was another, because you always want to be a little bit diversified.
Yep.
Another country that, you know, understood the geology somewhat and, you know, have an edge with the language and, and understanding the culture and stuff like that.
So, and you've seen some bull markets and some bear markets, obviously, up close and personal.
Oh my God, yes.
Right?
Oh yeah.
It's amazing that we stick with it after all this.
Yeah, no, when I first started working, got out of university, I'd worked in coal
Oh, wow.
for 2 years while I was in university, did my thesis and worked part-time my last year. And then all of a sudden I graduated and I got this job offer to have a crew of 10 in gold exploration. And I said to the fellow that was offering me the job, that sounds fantastic, but I don't know anything about gold.
Yeah.
He said, gold's just gone from $350 an ounce to over $800. You're a geologist, you'll figure it out.
Yeah, good for you.
I'm like,
Good for
okay,
you.
I will.
Jump in,
I will.
right? And Dan had some really neat things to say, something about magical towns.
Oh yeah.
What is he referring to?
Well, in Mexico, the tourism department of the states have been promoting Pueblos Mágicos.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason being is that many of these towns that had mining in the historic era, in 1800s, 1900s,
Yeah.
have beautiful buildings.
Yeah.
So in El Oro, there's El Oro y Tlalpujagua, which is the town next door, and that is also covered by our property. There's cathedrals. There's a palace in El Oro. There's a palace and there's an opera house.
Wow.
And the opera house has had very, very famous singers there and still functions very well. So, I mean, that's really rare. It's a town in the mountains.
Yeah.
It's at 3,000 meters.
Wow.
It's very fresh air. It's very clean.
Yes.
And it's built on a hillside.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it is a magical town. And then they've with state tourism dollars, they've been able to fix up some of the old mine heads. Think of the word right now. But anyway, some of the historic mine buildings and such, and we have a tourism agreement with them to be in one of our tunnels, and they've
That's good for you.
yeah
That's
made
smart.
quite a beautiful little entrance area.
Yeah.
And but we've insisted on keeping it, a lot of it, as it should be, rustic.
Yeah.
So compromise. But no, it's a great thing, and so there's thousands of people that come through there, and I don't know, on a weekend they could have at least 500.
Yeah.
On one weekend, yeah.
Well, and it's the legacy of a successful mining town. So many times they turn into ghost towns, and they have such bad histories while they're even populated, before they even die. They're not really nice places. Surprising to hear about a mining town with an opera house. That is not something I've ever heard of
Yeah.
before.
No, I mean, they made good money there, and there were people there from France, they were there from England, they were there from Germany. I forget what other countries, but so they brought lovely things from
Exactly.
from Europe.
And you spend time there how much time are you at site and stuff these days, or have in the past? Or?
When we're active, I'm there at least every 2 months. Yeah.
Good.
But really, when I was negotiating the deal on the tailings, I just stayed there for weeks and weeks and weeks till it got done.
Yeah.
So it really variable. But I'm very comfortable being there. I mean, obviously, I have a lot of things I should be doing in Vancouver when I'm not there, or when I am there. So it's not like, but I could live there. I mean, it's, I wouldn't, if my children were younger, I wouldn't have a problem for them to, be living there. It's a very, very safe place.
Yeah.
And then my children have visited there and done their photographic tours and such. But no, it's a very safe place. Of all of Mexico, probably one of the safest. Yeah.
In comparison to Guerrero, was one of the ones too that we talked about a bit. I'm not so familiar with all the bad things that might be happening there, but
yeah, and I don't travel to a lot of other places in Mexico because my access is through Mexico City. Yeah. And yes, I've had the odd holiday to Cancun or Puerto Vallarta, but not a lot. So I can't really compare it, other than, as you say, the stories we hear of the rest of Mexico.
And to be honest, I don't watch too much of the news anyways. I don't need to hear too many of those stories. I heard them all. I'm afraid it's not. God. Not that they're not important, but there's more important to be spending your time, right? As you say, as CEO yourself, how do you manage juggling everything in the concrete jungle here in Vancouver? I guess years of experience helps.
Yeah.
The board, as we talked about.
Yeah, and I've gone from, when I started Candente, I went from being just a geologist to knew the rules about raising money because I was the QP, qualified person, where before 43-101 was even in existence, and through all that, and then I learned all about the corporate, and when I started Candente, I had a lady join me, Lola Montagne, who was Peruvian, living in Vancouver, and she was my EA and corporate secretary.
Oh, great!
For 14 years.
Wow.
But when we had to reduce and she left, then I had to become the corporate secretary. So I actually took
your own executive assistant too.
I took a pubco course 2 weeks ago. I now have a new assistant, Maria Paz, who's learning. And so I thought she wanted to take it, and when I saw the curriculum, I said, I'll take it with you, because I want to make sure, I want to find out what I don't know. Yeah. And so it was really interesting. 2 days over at SFU downtown. Yeah. Everybody from the TSX, all the lawyers in town, each came and told their part. But it got a little embarrassing because they kept asking, who's ever done this? Who knows that? And my hand was always up, right? And so I started backing out. But it was good, because now I know that I do know pretty much all the fundamentals. Yeah. I don't know every rule but I know where to go.
No giant gaps in your knowledge. Nothing you were doing wrong for the last 20 years or something.
A couple of things asked questions about, but anyway, most of it no. But what that means is that we don't spend a lot of money on lawyers.
Yeah, that's...
So between Maria Paz and I, our CFO and our controller, who are also very part-time, but very knowledgeable, we're doing all our AGM materials right now, and the lawyers will have a last look, but they don't have to prepare the documents for us.
Well, and speed, too. You can do things quickly and with confidence, because you have internal control over what's being done. I'm sure that, again, the directors appreciate that and see that happening.
Yeah, I'd rather be well funded and get back to spending more time thinking about where to drill next, but in the meantime it does help to be able to save money and
the market will come back at some point someday for some stocks. But in the meantime, monetizing the tailings, that's a very smart thing to do. And those tailings can be so difficult again.
No, it's been great. The Sun River Gold, which is a private company with 4 engineers, wanted to take it on. That's perfect for us.
Yes.
Right?
Perfect for them too, I think. 4 engineers.
It's a good opportunity for them, but it works.
And your exposure or your the money you derive from that, there's some production related, and there's also some just base cash payments.
Yeah, it's
as you
payments
said.
up to 500,000.
Yep.
By the time we're in production.
Okay. Yep.
And then the NPI should be kicking in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice, well designed deal. Simple. Let me have a look for a second.
Sure.
Always a tough question for you guys to speak to. Speaking of potential acquirers, I can't imagine a property of El Oro's caliber wouldn't be on the radar of quite a few players, both big and small. Have any geologists visited the property over the past year or so?
I can say yes. Absolutely.
Good. It's an easy answer, yeah. It's tough to
No,
tread
and
lightly
it's
on
been
that.
really interesting. The point being that before we got Gold Corp out,
Yep.
so they hung on, with still had the 30% interest. I could not get a major company or even a middle-sized company, anybody with production, to visit the property, sign a CA, why would they?
It's nothing, yeah.
But it's been slow for me to some degree, but there's a Discoveries Conference in Mexico in April, the last 2 years I've been at, and that's really helped, because being there with CORE and then just being, it's a very small conference,
Yep.
you get to talk, and pretty much everybody who's exploring in Mexico has some representative there.
Mhm.
So that's been really a great way to help get interest. And now, we've the last year, 2 years, I guess now, but since January of 2017, so it's just a bit more than a year. We've had some really good site visits, and the people we've had on the property who are so knowledgeable in these systems, they have operating mines and many exploration projects in low sulfidation epithermal systems in Mexico. It's been very encouraging. So, have those guys, gals in our core shed looking through the core for days on end and expressions on their face or just sharing that, they're totally convinced, we're still very high in the system, which means, we've got a lot, the system has a lot of legs left.
Yes, indeed.
So even though we've, it's produced 4 million ounces gold and 44 million ounces silver, in geological textures, vein textures that are high level, that means there's overlapping systems.
Yep.
So that's fantastic. And we've had some really interesting discussions on potential deal structure.
Yeah.
The difficulty really has been the market cap.
Yeah.
How do you bring a strategic partner in and not just give them the entire project for too little money, right?
Yes.
So the discussions are ongoing, and of course, getting a increasing share price really helps.
Well, and the royalty interests maybe is one of the ways. It seems Sandstorm's out there funding half of the exploration industry this year.
Yeah, that could be.
But that's...
I think we'd rather have strategic equity investors.
Yeah.
Would be the key.
And would Gold Corp, is there any... I've heard, Mr. Garofalo there talk about how they want to do deals with everybody they can, small, medium, large.
I don't know, to be honest, how they feel about Mexico, because they shut down all of their Mexican exploration. But I met them last week when we did the auction for Women Who Rock. We all got auctioned for people who want mentors. But I wouldn't approach Gold Corp right now. If they're interested, they'll let me know.
Yeah.
But I'd rather deal with a different entity.
Yep.
And I think, to be honest, it's probably not a big company like that'd be best for us at this moment.
Sure.
Because if they take a key position, well, then people will just think we're controlled by them again, and there's no upside.
And
right?
You want somebody a little bit hungrier, I think, for something like this too. It makes
or just investors.
Yep.
Just get some new investors that get a good position in us.
Well, there's gold bugs out there still. There's.
Yeah.
Does having Candente Copper and Candente Gold, sometimes sister companies like that can kind of cannibalize each other's shareholder base a little bit, I think.
Cannibalize,
Well, just it's
Competing?
Yes.
No, actually the opposite. What we found, one of the reasons we spun out, so we explored El Oro from 2006, 2007, then we kind of sat back in 8 and 9. Well, everybody sat back in 8 and 9
Certainly.
on everything, but we then spun out Candente Gold in 2010. The reason being is that it was attracting very different kinds of investors.
Okay.
So not only one's copper, one's gold, silver, but Canariaco was in pre-feasibility, moving towards feasibility.
Yep.
El Oro is very much an exploration story.
Yep.
So those two as well
Yep.
means different investors. That doesn't mean we don't have some co-investors
Sure.
who like both things, but really it's quite separate. So no, it's not been a problem that way.
Great.
Yeah.
And your office here, there's a bunch of different public companies here.
Yes.
And are you part of a group per se?
No, it's just it really just it was some sister companies that had this whole floor.
Yeah.
And when times got tough, they started renting out offices to different companies.
Yep.
So we moved in here in, I think, 2015. And it's been fantastic because, if we do grow a little bit, there's, somebody leaves an office, we could take another office.
Sure.
But we've got access to the boardroom and cost savings are fantastic.
Well, in 2015 was the time to be tightening the belt. That was it, right?
Yeah.
That was when you're either going to give up and go do something else or find a way. And shares trading around a nickel and stuff now. Financings, I don't, have there been anything recently or any news about things planned?
We're just, we just hired Dan and his team at Third Eye Research, so give them some time to get their followers or find new followers for us, basically is the point.
Yeah.
And then see where things are at, and then we'll start talking financing, yeah.
It always feels like the blind leading the blind sometimes in the junior space. I know there's some groups out there that are organized enough and have their financing, everything in order, but I'm based in Victoria myself, and pretty quiet life, really. And I come over to Vancouver, stay awful busy and go visit all the different groups that I can,
Right.
but quiet in comparison.
Yeah.
When you're not here.
Yeah.
It's a strange business. It's I've been hanging around it since I was probably a teenager, just watching the economic side really is what studying, following what's happening in the world, right? And Dr. Copper, right? And the gold markets and how it's significant and all the things that those reflect about all the things going on in the world. And so you're a geologist.
Yes.
Great, and even a mentor for some other young
geologists
now.
Well, they think just because I'm 60 years old, I should have something to share.
Yeah.
And I have a few stories. No, so no, it's a great idea. This mentoring. I mean, you want to mentor anyway, so
the women who rock the group, they're great.
They do an interesting. And then the women in mining had an event last week as well. So. Talked to a lot of young ladies there, and there's quite a group of people now, kind of. But hey, why not, right? Well,
and good to hear you mention that there are conferences that you go to, kind of, for the last couple of years in Mexico as well. How important that is in Vancouver, right? That community of people coming together for these shows again and again.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting conference because they really concentrate on exploration.
Okay.
Everybody gets a chance to be up on stage telling their story.
Oh, really?
And room to bring your core. They're really encouraged to bring your core, and small enough that you get to, basically, I'd say there's no reason everybody who goes to that conference can't meet everybody.
Yeah.
Which is such a breath of fresh air after the PDAC.
My first time going to that this year, and it was an interesting experience. I went with a company, and I just exclusively focused on, helping that
company.
Yeah, because I had some sense that it could be a very overwhelming experience if you tried to do too much.
Oh, it's wild.
And geology again, with all these targets, 30 veins, more than 30 veins, you know, do you have a good sense for possible work programs and stuff? How to prioritize all these things, right?
We need ground truthing first.
Yep.
That's really, because these targets were developed by Nadia after we finished our drilling. Nadia came in and did data compilation and just try and help us understand the controls to mineralization and where do we go from here. Because when we acquired the project, we were drilling right away. We already had targets. Our first round, Larry Cornsey, who was a Barrick geologist for many years, and Mike Castleman, who was an ex-Cameco guy, they did the first work and loved the El Oro, and you know, we drilled underneath San Rafael, Veta Verde, Borda Vein, and Corona Vein, and came up with evidence in all four of them that the system continues, the mineralizing system, and some good grades. Then when we had the money and we'd launched Candente Gold as its own company, managed to hire Mark Pryor, who had run a project at El Oro for Placer. So he had all Placer's data, and he had targets for where to find the first 1 million ounces. So we just dove right in on his targets.
Oh, God.
And I didn't have the model, but they were all here. That's why
a nice
we drilled.
road map, hey?
Yeah, that's why we drilled all these holes underneath the old workings.
Okay.
But they, you know, all the red ones are anomalous.
Yeah.
But not enough. You know, we didn't come up with the resource, and the market didn't get excited by our results.
Yep.
But you talk to people from Agnico Eagle and
Sure.
and all the other big players in Mexico, and they say, no, the grades we got in here are exactly what you expect in the system. When, you know, now what you need to know where your high grade, right? Your high grade is. And that's the area right here, just looking at this long section. That's the area we were targeting when we drilled these holes. So, because Mexico mined deeper,
There it
these
is,
guys
yeah.
stop. You know why? It's a property boundary. It's not a geological anything. There's faulting this way, so everything is down dropping as you're going north. So you can see that's deeper than it was here, but there's no vertical fault here following the property that we know of. And we did get, you know, these two didn't get San Rafael, but they got other veins, and then this hole did get San Rafael right there. So that was great, you know, following what Mark Pryor had from Placer, but we didn't hit enough.
Yep.
And so then we said, well, we better sit back and reevaluate, you know, and get a better handle on understanding the system. So we built a 3D model.
Yep.
Nadia worked on that.
Using old production numbers and everything, yeah.
And so now we have a good idea of gold grade distribution, all the metals, silver as well. We only have 2 in this folder, and then vein width. I mean, look how wide the vein gets.
I
up
saw
to 30
that
meters.
70 meter stuff. That was just stunning.
Here,
what is that?
16 to 35, all throughout there. So that helps you understand the system. And then we also documented all the various controls for mineralization and the idea of the Blind District. And then the structural analysis, which came up with, and looking at geochem throughout the area. And then
Full
you come
suite,
up with
started,
31
hey?
targets.
Oh, God.
And
Okay.
this is what we know about them. So it's alteration, it's structural setting, and various and different rock types.
Yep.
So, you know, your felsic intrusions, that sort of thing. So put that all together, we've got a matrix of understanding, you know, these 31. Now we've already prioritized the top 10.
Yep.
And based on all these things, but what's strong is now we need to ground truth. So we need some serious geological mapping, which we've never done before, honestly. And do that first. I mean, I would put a team ground truthing these 31 targets, concentrate on the top 10 that have already been targeted first, but really ground truth everything here. And that's a lot of mapping and sampling.
Yep.
But at the same time, get in drilling here on the Mexico Esperanza. It's nothing. I don't need any more work to be done the rest of the property to understand that better. I just need to get the drills in here. But then once we get the drills in here and really prove that, you know, Peter McGaw's theories are panning out. It's not just Peter McGaw, but he's very significant, understanding Mexico and has worked with me on this. These concepts, prove that we've got a whole nother system down here in the San Rafael vein.
Yeah.
Well, multiply that by 31.
Yeah.
Then we're off to the races, right? But have the success here first, then we can prove that, or figure it out a bit better.
Yeah.
And then take it over to those.
Well.
And then your ground crew is ground truthed.
Yep.
A lot of what Nadia came up with here, then you can figure out where you're going to drill on these targets.
And those work programs make sense to the market, I think, right now.
Yeah.
With more drilling on a target that's really specific, localized, conceptually significant for the geological model, all this stuff. Drill there, we're going to keep going. We got some more work to do, and then the really broad, surface work and the sampling and the mapping, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
To do that over a large area, that's a great kind of one to generate a bunch of different types of results and stuff there.
Yeah. And the volcanic cover will not be what it is in San Rafael, will not be the same throughout the property, because the western area, so it'll be easier, more closer to surface to get. Basically, you're not drilling through 300 meters of younger volcanics to get your targets, but out here, so this is San Rafael, Veta Verde. That's where the volcanics, younger volcanics, are up to 300 meters thick. Over here, there aren't any. So your sediments that are hosting the veins are exposed.
Oh, really?
That's why the mining in the western area, that the Spaniards discovered the gold and silver here first, and it was more silver than gold.
Yeah.
But they were mining from surface.
Yeah.
And whereas this had to be found underground. So a lot of those 31 targets are out here.
So many questions that I've said, and as you have too. It's exciting. And so this is it, this single asset exploration story for the company.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, we've got a couple of small claims left that we're holding in Peru, but which are obviously have some potential, but it's not the target right now.
Well, and this is the amount of work you could do here. This is it, right? This is where the potential for the strategic equity investment from somebody else in the industry makes a lot of sense there as well. Because you're just getting started. Despite all the historical production and Placer in there, and others.
Yep, Tech has been here, Placer's been here.
What a history.
And
all the stuff you've put together, really, that's what the majors, they need, that kind of a data suite.
Yeah.
Even, mid-tier producers, anybody who's doing serious work, they're going to want to see all this stuff in detail and have it available for them to analyze themselves, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly. And I don't have a map here of the historic drilling. It's in one of our presentations. It's but Tech came in. Well, Luisman drilled throughout this area for a remnant resource.
Okay.
I'm not allowed to call it a remnant resource by 43-101 rules. Now we have to call it a historical conceptual exploration target.
That's some phrasing, isn't it?
Yes. Grading between 3 to 3.4 grams per ton gold, 40 to 44 grams per ton silver, which leaves approximately 580 to 760,000 ounces gold and 7 to 9 million ounces silver in the old workings.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's mineable or not, which is why I can't call it a historic resource anymore, but that's sitting there. That's what Luisman concentrated on, their drilling. Then Tech came in.
How many holes? So like 150?
You know what? There's been 20,000 meters drilled in El Oro before we got there.
Wow.
And then we've drilled another 20-ish.
Wow. Yeah.
But nobody drilled underneath the old workings like we did. Placer tried, didn't manage to do it, so we drilled all their targets. Tech did geophysics and ended up finding a lot of mafic intrusions, so around. But yeah, we were the first ones to drill underneath the old workings. So people have looked for a lot of things in El Oro. It's such an amazing camp. But yeah, nobody's done exactly what we did. So
that's great. Yeah. And with the $2.5-3 million market cap here, and nobody cares.
Oh, it's almost 4 today. Come on.
Sorry, I missed the last tick. But it's desperate out there. It's a tough times for the juniors again.
It's amazing, you're not, when you're so busy and you're not spending a lot of time at the shows or getting together with your colleagues, you think it's us.
Yeah.
You know, and
It's
then
not.
you get out there, which I've been doing this last week, and it's like, oops, no, not just us.
So it's, yeah. And the Cambridge House show this week in May, no crowds and very, very small, and the numbers were way down, but the diehard people who matter were there. There was a lot of, you know, the important people in there, and there was a certain pulse amongst those people. Work to be done, deals to be done, financing available out there somewhere. It's not always clear where it is, but and all kinds of deals and M&A stuff seems to be heating up amongst some of the producers and stuff too.
Yeah, there's a little bit going on there,
Yeah.
so that's good.
Yeah.
That's the best. I mean, that helps a lot when that's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't ever seen anybody really analyze the life cycle of a bull market and try and figure out where we see, you know, the most aggressive M&A and when do the juniors get in financing, if there's, you know, typical patterns to what happens when and all that. But
I think usually when a junior, somebody gets bought out for several $100 million, that really helps.
puts a lot of cash into the system, doesn't it? Right?
Well, and when there's a good premium.
Yep.
You know, that's the other thing.
A comparable transaction for everybody
Yeah.
else to mark to and say, hey, wait a second. Well, and you get something like this and you multiply it by 31 times or whatever.
Exactly.
And all this drilling that you've marked out here, these holes are kind of way spread out, and all the historical resource, you know, you're not close to a 43101 here, despite having done another 20,000 meters of drilling yourself.
We're not.
What you were saying about really focusing on one target area to try to understand that helps.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this would be, if we can make a discovery, you know, find that deeper ore body, deeper mineralization right near the Mexico Esperanza border area, and then, you know, we understand it well enough to get some delineation and size to it, then maybe that would be the place we could start developing a resource. I don't know.
Yep.
But the biggest thing is, let's make a discovery.
Yep.
You know, a discovery hole of some that shows people there's a, you know, not just some interesting intersections, but, you know, really good grade over some widths, and what, you know, what the body looks like.
Well, and you've been there before too, right? This
Yeah.
is wouldn't be your first discovery.
Well, I've worked on some really good projects. I mean, I worked for the one a lot of people talk about is, when I was in Peru, I was QP for Arequipa Resources, and I was QP for them only for 13 months. They hired me August 1st of 95, sorry, and they were drilling something called Perón, getting ready to drill California Cuatro. By September, I wrote a report on kind of everything else they owned. They had about 19 projects, I think it was, in the Cordillera Negra. And by November, I was able to do a site visit to Piarina because their Peruvian geologist was telling me how much he liked it. And I convinced Catherine McLeod to let me do a site visit because I was coming home to Canada for January and February. I didn't want to have to go back to Peru since I lived there, right?
Wow. Yeah.
During that time. Did my site visit in November, called her at New Year's. She said, thank you very much. No, we're not needing any reports right now. 5 days later, our stock's going, you know, she called me. How fast can you write that report? Our stock's gone from $1 to $5. We're going to raise money. And and then I stayed their QP through their sale to Barrick for over $30 a share.
Yeah.
But I have to be honest, there's been, you know, David Lowell even wrote a book saying that I took credit for that discovery. And I'm like, I never took credit. I'm a QP's a QP. You verify what's there. Yeah. And, I mean, sure.
Yeah. I had to write a paper. What do you want?
You do say if you think people are, you know, if it's not legit or something. And I had to phone Catherine a couple times and say, you can't use 18 laboratories. You've got to have, you know, your main lab, your check lab, and, you know, some other comparisons. Because Peruvian tradition was every geologist had their own lab.
Oh my God.
Probably got kickbacks, I don't know. But why you would use so many labs. And then just some of their sampling, you know, I could just see room for things to not be as clear and consistent.
Totally.
And their American geologists on the team didn't want to hear that from me.
No.
They basically said to me, you wait till we have a problem, then we'll worry about it.
Yep.
And
Yep. Just write
but
the
Catherine
report.
listened.
Thank
Catherine
you.
heard
Yep.
me, and so things like that. But it was a great project to work on, and great learning experience. So.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like that's why they got you into women in mining mentorship thing too. Maybe like tracing back to Catherine McLeod and all that. That's amazing. Joey, thank you very much.
Thank you. You made this very easy.
Yep, that's the goal. Try and make it comfortable as much. Hopefully, anybody listening, we're at the 58-minute mark here. Of
Oh,
all
really?
things, too,
Okay,
so.
good.